Okay, welcome back to Bounce Around Charleston. Standing here with me, attorney Eduardo Curry. We're talking about the final sentencing of the Dylann Roof case. And basically, at this moment, we want to talk about where do we go from here. Attorney Curry?
That's a very interesting question. Well, where we go from here is healing for the victims' families. But also for Mr. Roof, he's now going to be relegated to a federal institution. Now, depending
nowhere
on,
locally.
Well, it's very interesting that if he had lawyers, they would have asked that he be at least housed in a local federal prison so that his family could have access. Because we know the federal system is contiguous within the 48 states that are here. And so he may end up in some place like Leavenworth or some max or supermax prison as they move him around from Charleston to somewhere else. So we don't know where he's going to be housed. They'll probably keep it silent until it comes out in some kind of public disclosure. But from here, he's going to prison from the sentencing phase.
Okay. What about the healing of the families?
Reverend Miller, it's tough. And one of the reasons that it's tough is that psychologically and spiritually we grow to love each other and we grow receiving information from each other in terms of training. And so you have motherless children, you have wifeless and husbandless victims, you have people who were bedrocks in their familial society. They're gone. And so healing is going to be a process that's going to be painstaking. Spiritual healing, emotional healing, psychological healing. And so the victims' families are certainly going to need, when we talk about care, a lot of people run to pre-care before death. Everybody comes to your house before the funeral, but after the funeral, everyone goes back into their life. Post-care in this situation is as important as the pre-care. And so I'm asking those who know these families and know the family members to be gentle with them, to give them sense of encouragement, to make sure that they have passion and meaning, to make sure that they're committed to the post-care of these individuals.
We had a counseling person on here, Cynthia Williams. She used a term that said, counseling is not a curse word.
No, it's not.
And if a person feels or know that they stand in need of that, they should seek it out. Am I correct?
Absolutely. And you're going to have some bleed over. The Emmanuel Church family has some issues themselves with regard to this is where it happened in our church. And so not only do we have the victims' families, but we also have a congregation in the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church that was traumatized.
Well, I actually know people that haven't been back since the incident.
That's right.
How can we help them?
Through counseling and through measured. There are some people who have come back to church, but maybe has elected not to go into the basement. And so it's going to be a gradual process that is going to require the help of God and the help of committed and passionate professionals that will allow them to grieve, but help them to actually return back to some sense of normalcy. It will never be perfect.
What about his family?
His family certainly will be grieving as well, because even though they weren't found to be involved in the choices that he's made, he still has a mother, a father, and family. And they're going to have some grieving process, not only for the wrong that he's done, but for the fact that they may never see him physically in a freedom situation again. They'll have a right to visitation, they'll have a right to correspondence, but in terms of him having his freedom, that may never occur.
What about houses of worship now seeking more security?
They're going to have to do it. The world has become an evil place. We've been encouraging houses of worship to manifest some presence at the door. The doors of the church are still open, even in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. But now we have to have some wisdom in asking people, can I help you and where are you going? The churches have always been a focal point against evil. It still will be. Jesus said, upon this rock I build my church. That means it's not the church of the devil, it's the church of God. And so the churches are just going to have to understand that they are easily marked and be protective of their parishioners and their existence.
Okay, so now we have the trial coming to closure. What will the families, what can they do to help each other, I would say?
That's amazing. We've seen this in families that have lost their children in wars. They get together to have family sessions. It could be a wise idea for that to occur. The church may offer it. Some secular agencies may offer to give them opportunities to relate to each other, because forever they will be bound in this horrific tragedy.
But I've got to put this before you. The survivors being in the courtroom with him, what do you think that was like?
Horrible. I think that one of the things that had happened is by having this trial, you relive the wounds, relive the event. And so I think that they too are going to be able to find a place to vent, to recalibrate, to find some sense of normalcy and purpose. And we will hope that the Charleston community, who itself has been horrendously burdened by two horrendous acts, to start to try to heal race relations, heal emotional relations, healing spiritual relations, and get about being the great city that we are.
Finally, what's going to happen? What do you think is happening with Dylann Roof?
I would think that mentally, Mr. Roof is going to have to contemplate all that he's done, heard, and seen. And he's manifested that he's not insane. And so if he's not insane, average people will have remembrances. And so I think that as time goes back, he will understand, and there might be some remorse later for what he has done. Right now, he may even be too young to understand the remorsefulness. But as he gets older, he'll see that prison life is not freedom.
I saw where he said, I did it because I had to do it.
And I don't know, I don't believe that. He did it because he was unrepentant in his heart and had decided to manifest a sense of racial overtures against people who were not deserving to lose their life. That's why he did it.
Mm-hmm. Finally, there was a list of other churches in his writing. Should those churches be very concerned?
I think all churches need to be very concerned, white and black, racial, interracial churches, because the house of God is the enemy of Satan. And so you have other people who do copycats. We have people who may read and say, oh, they were on the list. And so we can't lose our due diligence in making sure that our parishioners and congregants are safe, making sure that our churches have adequate security and lighting, making sure they have video and audio to record, and making sure they pray. Pray that the protective arm of God will keep them safe and in perfect peace.
So as we recap the final sentencing of Dylann Roof,
I think it'll be the death penalty. But I think he has a long road in ahead of him for the appellate process. Mm-hmm. And some of the appellate process, they might turn away his sentencing. They may transmute it from death penalty to life in prison. We don't know. But that'll be a process that he and his legal team, or whomever he wants to represent him, will have to cross.
But he will pay.
He's going to pay as soon as that death penalty sentence come down formally.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Eduardo Curry.
Thank you for having me.
For being here on Bounce Around Charleston. But after this break, you're going to hear about a wonderful jazz festival here in the Low Country. We'll be right back after the break.